Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Panzerkampf video. My name is Panzrace, and this has been the first video that I've done in a little while now on this channel. But considering that Panzerkampf has just had a significant update, really, I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to just make, a video just to really discuss the changes and mention the good points about the game, those that have been just implemented in update 0.298, and talk about the things which still need to be improved on, especially with the Steam release of this game quite imminent now. There's been quite a lot of discussion with regards to the Steam release date, and apparently it's not too far away now, possibly only a matter of weeks rather than months now. So yeah, it is on the horizon now. For those of you waiting for it to come out on Steam and that have had it wishlisted. But yeah, I'm just gonna get straight into it. This is just going to be a rambling session, so I'll probably make mistakes in the audio recording. But I'm just going to do it off the cuff because there's quite a few things I need to discuss really. So a big change that has been introduced in this update is that the speed of nearly all the tanks in the game, bar like I think it's the Panzer 1, 2, and another one, they have all been decreased. So the top speeds of all the tanks have been quite significantly decreased as well, which is great to see because at top tier you had things like the Tiger 2 and the Super Pershing, which both are quite heavy vehicles in their own regard, and they were doing about 40 plus kilometers an hour off road as well. That wasn't on like tarmac or anything, or proper roads. That was literally like on sand, on dirt, and yeah, considering that this game wants to be in some ways realistic, that was obviously something that obviously the developers wanted to rectify, and that's now been sorted. So the Tiger 2 now only does about 30 kilometers an hour, and I think the Super Pershing just does a little bit more than that. So it's far more realistic. It slows down the pace of the combat a lot, prevents a little, well, sort of prevents turbo battles from happening where people, just rush straight into combat and the battle's over within a few minutes. I think that's been a great implementation for this update. Is just slowing everything down, slowing down the pace, and catering towards the more realistic side of things. A few tanks have been improved as well, and a few others have had nerfs. Sorry, mainly the KV-1. That has been considerably nerfed in the mobility department. Obviously, it had the speed decrease, as did a lot of other tanks. But additionally, the hull traverse rate has decreased, and the turret traverse rate has been decreased as well. So if you're in a Panzer 3, like I am in this clip on the screen here, then flanking is now quite a viable option against the KB1 player, which is absolutely great. They have all that armor, and they had great maneuverability before, which shouldn't have been the case. You should never have been the case, but that has now been solved. As you can see, I'm literally flanking one right here, and it's quite easy to do. You can see he's having a hard time traversing the tank, traversing the turret as well. And I believe we may set him on fire. Yeah, there we are. I thought I did. But yeah, you can do stuff like that now, and obviously we know the Panzer 3 was extremely underpowered at one point. It's had buffs. It's also had a rate of fire increase for this update as well. So it is quite a good tank now, which is great to see. Just some balance being restored back to the German nation at the lower tiers. It's just good for the game. Balancing is good for the game. If you got the Russian tanks before were completely overpowered and broken a lower tier, the KV-1. I think the KV-2 is still quite good, although that's had a speed decrease and a turret race, traverse rate decrease. It has had a health increase for some reason. I don't really know why, because again, it still has great armor for its tier. I don't know why they increase the health on it, but that's something that they can maybe have a little look at rectifying in the future if that is a persistent issue. Yeah, so the Panzer 38T, another one of those low-tier German tanks, which we had quite a lot of people complaining about. That has also been buffed. The rate of fire has been increased, as has the health of the vehicle. So it is now actually a bit more decent against the T34s at tier 4, which is great to see. Again, that tank was, completely underpowered. It was basically, preventing those from enjoying the lower tier German tanks, especially when they wanted to grind through the tree or chose that tree starting off in the game and didn't, go with the American or Russian side of things. So that's good to see that they've given the lower tier German tanks a little bit of love as well. There's also been general stability improvements as well. I think there was a glitch before whereby when you entered a battle, the game would just completely crash, and you'd have to, shut the game down, restart it again. That seems to have been rectified from the battles I've done today. I've had no issues with that as well. So that's good to see. And the most major thing that they've introduced in this update is this map here. I think it's called Opava. It's a city map, and is really an updated version from Armored Aces, their other game on mobile only. So it's great to see that, having been polished up properly. And I think this is probably the best looking map in the game. The lighting is quite good. The roads are quite nice and detailed. You can see the track marks there, which is obviously, in other tank games as well. But you can see them more clearly on these types of maps. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying the new map. It was quite a step away from the maps they've released in the game so far. Them being open and hilly. This one is completely flat, very suited for Russian tanks. So if you're playing an IS-2 or something like that, you can use some side scraping tactics and hit a Tiger 2 when it's not looking. But that is all the positives of this update. But what I really want to cover in this video are the ways on improving the game moving forward, especially considering that the Steam release is very close. So I just want to give my opinion on why I think the Steam release should be pushed. So excuse my throat. Pushed back a little bit. I've got a few points on my phone here. So yeah, the first one is the acceleration of the tanks. Now, obviously, the top speed got decreased on a lot of the vehicles. But with regards to the acceleration of the tanks, they reach their top speed within about a second and a half to 2 seconds, which yeah, it's strange seeing a 70-ton Tiger 2 go from a standstill to 30 kilometers an hour within a second and a half. I think that really needs to be reduced because it makes the tanks feel less authentic and heavy. These are, as I said, a 70-ton steel monster in the Tiger 2's case. That should not be accelerating that quickly. And if the developers want to keep going down the realistic route, then they really need to nerf the acceleration on some of these vehicles because it doesn't fit in now that the speed of them has been reduced to their historical parameters. The acceleration now needs to do the same and just be really reduced for some of these tanks. It gives them more of a weighty feeling, more of a gritty feeling, as I said, more of an authentic one as well. So that's one thing I think they really need to do just to keep up with the realism side of the game. And I think the biggest one that I have really moving forward is that there seems to be, I'm not sure if this is because it's a small team or maybe they're focusing on a lot of things at once, but they seem to be adding in tanks one by one, and the updates for adding in new vehicles are few and far between. I think there's the next tank destroyer for Germany due to be added is maybe an update or two still away, and that will be the only new tank added to the game as well. So my main gripe about this is if we look at the other games, the main competitors of this game, which are always going to be, World of Tanks and War Thunder, when they first started off, they had quite a lot of variety in vehicles to choose from and a constant grind. But with this game, I think the grind is a lot easier, which is a good thing, I think. Because the grinds in World of Tanks and War Thunder are far too long in some cases. But as you can progress more quickly through the game, through Panzerkampf, sorry, it makes achieving all the vehicles in the game extremely easily compared to other games. And as soon as you've got all the vehicles in the game, there is really nothing else you can do at the moment. So because the developers are adding the tanks one by one, you're immediately going to unlock that tank if you got all the tanks in the game already, and then you've got nothing else to do for another a few months or so. So I think this is something that really needs to be addressed by the developer team. And maybe the next update, or maybe over the next, few weeks of the development, they really need to focus on releasing a full tank line in the next update. Because if this releases to Steam and, people are going to be grinding as per usual on any new game, the grind is going to end very quickly, and they're not going to have anything else to unlock. There's no clan battles at the moment because this is still early in development. There's no platoon battles, so it really is a dead end once you unlock all the tanks, and that's why I think it's really important that the developers possibly postpone the release on Steam until we've got more variety of tanks in the game, because we've got the tank lines at the moment, the common ones. And they're talking about adding the tank destroyers and the experimentals. We need more tanks before this game releases. Otherwise, it's going to go stale very quickly, and I can already see that the Steam reviews won't be good. Not because the game isn't good, but because there's not enough content in the game as it is now. So I think it is absolutely vital for the sake of this game's survival and thrivement that the Steam release is postponed until there is more content in the game. That is my personal opinion. That is not me telling the developers what to do. If they believe the game should be released early, then that's up to them. But I've seen plenty of new games that have been released recently. Putting tank games aside, just new games in general, if they're not released with enough content on launch day, they die extremely quickly. And this really needs to be addressed by the developers. And I really hope that they can start adding tank lines in one update rather than spreading them out. Because I think if we were to wait for the full German tank destroyer line now, we would be waiting possibly even a year for all the tanks to be added. That would include the Jag Tiger, the Ferdinand, the Jag Panther, I think a Stug, new Marders as well. The Hetzer, we'll be waiting a year for them, and that is it's not going to do well if that's the case when it comes to releasing the game on Steam. At the moment, them adding new tanks one by one with the game, not being released on Steam and being released to the wider audience is okay. They can get away with adding the tanks one by one, but as soon as it comes to that Steam release, that is going to be where the bulk of their players are coming from, and if that fails, that is going to be disastrous for this game, especially with the efforts and the time the development team and the management team have put into this game so far. They put a lot of effort in coming from iPad to PC, upgrading the graphics, upgrading the physics model to what they've got now. And really, it's about me not seeing all that potential and resources and money and development time not going to waste. So please, 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 this is the message to you developers. We need to think about adding more content into the game before it's released on Steam, because the last thing that you need, or for the player base needs, is for it to release on Steam and it to be a total flop. But aside from that, there was the only other thing that I really wanted to quickly mention upon was the AI in the game, so the bots you fight against. They really need to be reworked as well. Because sometimes they'll hit you immediately, they target your weak point, and then you'll have to pull back into cover and question yourself on whether, it was a bot or a real player. But, a lot of the time they're pulling out completely sideways, showing their entire weak points on their tanks, It's not what a real player would do, and I understand that, it is hard to make bots perform like real players, but the bots can't be crashing into you and pulling out of cover, and exposing their weak points and whatnot. So that's another thing that needs to be improved for the game going forwards. But that's really everything I wanted to cover today, everyone. And hopefully the developers will listen to some of the points I made, as I want to see their game doing well. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be. So take care, everyone. And as always, I've been Panzerkampf, and have a great rest of your day.